Hello, I'm Anna Richardson and welcome to the latest edition of iiaa Live. Following on from a report in the British Journal of Nutrition in 2006, which concluded that it's possibly more important to feed the skin from the inside than to apply topical moisturisers, the iiaa developed its unique Feed, Fortify, Finish approach. Feeding the skin with essential nutrients from within, fortifying it topically with scientifically proven skincare, and finishing with a healthy mineral-based makeup. Many skincare professionals simply tell their clients to drink more water, and that's where it ends when it comes to feeding the skin from within, although even that has relatively minor benefits. In today's episode, we're going to see just what a difference good nutritional supplements can make to skin and learn from leading experts which key ingredients contribute towards healthy skin. Joining us are Dr. Rachel Watson from the University of Manchester, an expert in the internal and external factors that influence ageing, Dr. Des Fernandez, renowned aesthetic surgeon and founder of Environ Skincare, and Lorraine Peretta, iiaa nutritional consultant and brand manager for the Advanced Nutrition Programme.
Today, in this session, I'd like to talk a little bit about superfoods and whether they can impact on skin ageing. So, superfoods are defined by the Oxford English Dictionary as a food considered especially nutritious or otherwise beneficial to health and well-being. If you look on other sources of information, such as medicinenet.com, you'll see that superfoods are defined as a non-medical term, popularised in the media, and refer to foods that can have health-promoting effects, such as reducing the risk of disease. And these so-called superfoods may have unusually high content of antioxidants, vitamins, and other nutrients. And it's important to note that there's no accepted medical definition of the term superfood. So the idea of dietary photoprotection or enhancing skin health from within is very, very attractive. We know and we've heard that topical photoprotection can be unreliable because people tend to apply much less of the topical sunscreen than really they should. So we need to think of other ways that we can play with our body's system to help enhance our natural defences. But what evidence is there that these types of interventions actually work? So we're going to talk about three specific nutritional areas. The first is omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids, or PUFAs. We're then going to talk about lycopene, which is an antioxidant that we find in tomatoes. And then finally, I'm going to talk about some work which is currently ongoing in my laboratory in collaboration with Professor Leslie Rhodes and Gary Williamson, who's Professor of Functional Foods at the University of Leeds, on green tea catechins. So what are PUFAs? Well, they're essential fatty acids. So these are parts of our diet which we cannot get from any other source. We can't make them, so we have to ingest them. And what you see on the right-hand side of the slide is the pathway of production of these essential fatty acids. So we need to take these in. We have some of the enzymes available to us that can convert one fatty acid into another, but certainly we need that raw building block material in our diet. So some plants are very, very good sources of these short-chained fatty acids. So particularly ALA, which is alpha-linoleic acid, and stearidonic acid. And these come from plants like linseed and the oils that you get from their seeds. We also find them in walnuts, in black currant oil, and various other seeds. And then we have the longer-chained fatty acids. These are eicosapentaenoic acid and DHA, and these come preliminarily from oily fish. So things like mackerel, from sardines, from herring, and from salmon. So obviously, we need to have a balanced diet to make sure that we ingest enough of these into our daily routine to make sure that we can provide some health benefits. So why would we be interested in these polyunsaturated fatty acids? Well, we know that when we become exposed to sunlight in an acute way, a way that produces a burn, we're all familiar with the idea that we get redness, we get swelling, and we often get pain. And what we think is that, or what we know, is that this reaction is in part caused by the production of what are known as pro-inflammatory lipid mediators. So the sunlight interacts with our lipid membranes on our cells, and what it does is it builds a cascade of inflammatory reactions. And these are highlighted here. So we have arachidonic acid at the top of the cascade, and then we use, there are enzymes called COX and LOX, which then work on the arachidonic acid to produce all this family of pro-inflammatory mediators. And what happens when we have these pro-inflammatory mediators in our bodies is that blood vessels start to react to them, they dilate, and what it does is it allows the blood vessels to become leaky, and then white cells from our circulation, our blood circulation, can enter the tissues and then cause an inflammatory response, so which leads to this idea of redness, swelling and pain. What the PUFAs do is they play a game almost, in that they can help dampen down the response to UVR. So here highlighted in red we see the pro-inflammatory cascades, our eicosapentaenoic acid pathways, and what we see is that when we start taking up fish oils, essentially we have a bit of a competition going. So we have our enzymes sat in our cells, and they can either play with arachidonic acid or they can play with EPA. And of course, because they get a choice, not all of the enzyme activity goes down one pathway. It separates things out, which means there's a competition and these much less inflammatory mediators are produced. So the net result is that we have less inflammation. So fish oil supplements can help reduce this sunburn reaction. And in some studies, we've seen reductions of almost 60%. So it's a really significant reduction, a real dampening down of this pro-inflammatory pathway. But the proviso is you need about 3 grams of these active ingredients every day to have this sort of effect. So you can imagine that to eat that much fish would be a challenge. And certainly if you think globally, you think about global fish stocks, then that might be something which we probably don't want to do. And actually, dietary supplementation by EPA or DHA is a much more attractive option. So lycopene is a carotenoid. It's found in lots of fruits and vegetables. But as I said, tomatoes are particularly rich in lycopene. And what's nice about tomatoes is the more you cook the tomatoes, the more lycopene is released. So if you think about that sort of Mediterranean diet, which is very rich in cooked tomatoes, then that's really an excellent source of lycopene. One of the other effects that sunlight has is it causes the reaction of what are known as reactive oxygen species. These are very highly energetic molecules which can interact with the lipids in our cell membranes, they can interact with our DNA and with our proteins and cause damage. And what we know is that these carotenoids become a physical barrier almost to that damage. They almost mop it up. So instead of interacting with, for example, a lipid at the membrane, it might interact preferentially with a carotenoid and hence reduce the damage that we see. So there have been some dietary intervention studies looking at lycopene, and we know that if we take 10 mg of lycopene, which isn't a massive dose, for 12 weeks, then we do see a reduction in this UVR-induced inflammation. To put that in context, 10 mg of lycopene is about the amount we find about 30 grams of tomato puree. So when you're thinking of that chili or that bolognese, it's a sort of comparable level. And we performed a study in Manchester in collaboration with Leslie Rhodes to look at the effect of lycopene when we fed it to people on a daily regimen. So we gave people either olive oil alone or tomato paste mixed with olive oil, and we fed this to them every day for 12 weeks. Actually, they were fed on crackers, because otherwise it's quite unpalatable, believe me. And what we did is we looked to see what the sunburn reaction was like in these volunteers at the beginning of the study and at the end of the study. And we also took some skin samples to see whether they had any effects on the structural basis of the dermis. So here we have some immunohistochemistry shots. Now here, I want to draw your attention to the black stain. And what we see, this is a stain for procollagen 1. And as we've spoken before, in baseline skin, we see this accumulation of procollagen 1 close to the epidermis. And when we irradiate it, it moves, it's reduced a little bit following an acute dose, but not a great deal. But what we found was that when we supplemented individuals with tomato paste and then irradiated them, actually, if anything, we had a boost of synthesis. And these samples were taken 24 hours after that initial irradiation. So in the 24 hours between being irradiated and us taking the biopsy, the skin cells had decided to make more procollagen 1. This is some photographs of the elastic fibre system. And what we see here in the left-hand panel is our unirradiated skin, our baseline skin. And we can see that things are broken down when we irradiate. But you'll see that there's some protection inferred by both the olive oil as well as the tomato paste. So we couldn't differentiate the benefit provided by the olive oil compared to the tomato paste. Finally, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about green tea catechins. So these are a polyphenol, and they come from tea. And depending on how you process the tea, depends on how much catechins are preserved in it. So green tea is very lightly processed, so it has the highest level of these catechins. And we know from studies both in cultured cells in the dish in the laboratory and in animal studies that these catechins found in green tea can impact on those enzymes which cause the release or the production of those pro-inflammatory lipid mediators. So there's also evidence that actually green tea catechins can also impact on diseases such as cancer. What we didn't know really was, could it get to the skin? So in collaboration with the Williamson group in Leeds, we started to see whether if we fed people green tea catechins, whether it actually made it to the skin at all. And actually what we showed is that actually it does. So if you take green tea catechins for an appropriate length of time, and this is a 12-week study again, what we find is an accumulation of the catechins and their breakdown products in the skin, which means that the skin is taking up the green tea catechins and is also metabolizing them. So I guess to conclude, the idea of protecting our skin from the inside out is very appealing. It would be great if we can tackle the problems both from the inside and topically. And that the evidence that diet impacts upon diseases such as cancer and dementia are really becoming quite strong now. But there are limited studies looking at dietary interventions in the skin particularly. We know that fish oils and carotenoids can protect against this sunburn response.
So Des, I just want to start with you. Could you just give us your views on vitamin A and vitamin D supplementation, particularly when it comes to the skin?
Well, many people think I'm very radical because I take 50 to 60,000 IUs of vitamin A a day.
I don't even know what that means. When you say you take 50 to 60,000 IUs, what would the normal IU be, for example, recommended?
Your average tablet in a pharmacy would be, say, between 2,000 and 5,000 IUs. And,
so you're taking 10 times that amount?
That's right, and I've been doing it for 20 years. And so I think that maybe I should have upped it and taken 100,000. But I think that that's a healthy dose for people. Research work is showing that 100,000 taken daily for extended periods of many years does not cause toxicity. Vitamin D, I like to supplement as well. I know that it's not the total answer yet, and that I actually go out for my vitamin D into the sun. I like to go out into the sun for, especially the midday sun, for about a period of 10 minutes is a maximum for me. Maybe even 5 minutes will do, and that way I make vitamin D plus about 8 other chemicals, which are created by sun exposure, And I believe that these are beneficial for us, keep us healthy, happy.
So, Des, you are amazing. You are a human machine. I love it. So you go out at midday, you stand there for 5 or 10 minutes, and you are making all the vitamins that you need to make to keep you healthy and happy.
No, sorry, I'm a plastic surgeon. I'm in operating theatre usually at that time. So that sun exposure happens generally on the weekend.
But that's all we need then, really, is 5 to 10 minutes in the midday sun, potentially.
That's about it.
Gosh, that's extraordinary. So, Lorraine, therapists tend to say to their clients, have some water. That's going to hydrate your skin. Is this just rubbish?
No, I think down at a very basic level, when we look at a skin cell, and this is very basic, it has water on the inside, and on the outside, it has fat or oils, which we just saw in the previous presentation. So in order for the body, the skin cell to hold the water on the inside, it needs the fat on the outside. So it needs two things to be hydrated. You need to have the water to plump up the skin cell, but on the outside, the oil needs to be there to hold the water in. And when people are low in essential fatty acids, that's probably when they show more dry and dehydrated skin, rather than just needing more water, Anna.
So two key things there. It's the oil and the water that we need to contribute towards healthy looking skin. So we have a room full of experts and therapists. What should they be telling their clients in terms of how to supplement for their skin?
Right, okay. First of all, we want to start with the diet. So it's important to have all the right things in the diet, and we all know fruits and vegetables and essential fatty acids and lycopene from tomatoes. Also, you have to think of what you shouldn't be having in your diet, because there's the things to have and the things not to have, and they are the excess sugar, the dehydrating things like salt and caffeine, these types of things that will start to make you feel puffy or dehydrated. And then supplementing wise, then having a good multivitamin, good essential fatty acid. We know how important vitamin C is for the skin, just to make collagen. And also then you start looking at vitamin A and antioxidants.
So if I were, which I am, just an ordinary woman coming into a clinic and saying, look, what is it that I need? You would be advising me, what foods specifically should I be eating for my skin?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Such as?
Okay, let's start already with what we talked about today, oily fish.
Yep.
And frequently, not, oh, I have salmon twice a month. It's got to be 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay, so a healthy diet should be oily fish 2 or 3 times a week.
Lots of red vegetables, green vegetables, the rainbow on the vegetable side. Drink plenty of water.
Okay, so oily fish, plenty of fruits and vegetables, loads of water.
Yes.
And just remind me, what shouldn't we be having specifically?
I wouldn't have a lot of high sugar diet, lots of chocolate. That's a treat, not a daily experience. And certainly the same with caffeine. I would keep caffeine to a minimum.
Alcohol, Lorraine? No? You're breaking my heart here. So no sugar, no chocolate, no alcohol.
No.
Basically. Okay, if you want to keep
really
youthful.
to have good skin.
So in terms of supplementation then, Rachel, what specifically should we be taking as supplements?
I think you have to remember that whatever you take, if your body doesn't need it, it will excrete it.
Okay.
So really, a general multi-purpose multivitamin would be absolutely fine. If you wanted to supplement that with fish oil, if you don't like the taste of oily fish, for example, or think it might provide you with an oily, fishy smell, then a capsule is a really good alternative. But again, it's about, don't be worried. You can't really go over the top too much because your body has ways of reducing that. And again, with the water, you know, we all know if we drink an awful lot of water, then we go to the toilet more. So the body's in balance, it's a homeostasis.
See, that's what I would worry about, I think, is that, you know, toxicity and having too much of these supplements. And I'm listening to Des saying he takes 10,000 IUs or 50,000 IUs a day of vitamin A, and I wouldn't know where to start. But you're saying, actually, it's okay to take a little bit more than you think in terms of supplementation?
I would say you go for a brand which contains all the minerals and vitamins in a very balanced one-hit supplement, and don't worry about it. Because, you know, take one of those every day. If you miss a day, is it going to do you a great deal of damage? Probably not. If you don't need it because you're having a great diet as well, then any excess will be excreted.
And Lorraine, tell me about the ANP, so the Advanced Nutrition Programme. Give me some more information about that.
Okay, at the Advanced Nutrition Program, we make supplements that are focused on skin. So we make sure we have a vitamin A, but it also contains vitamin D, which is a great combination. We also have an antioxidant, which contains lycopene. It also contains green tea, although your study didn't show that. I think it's a dosage thing. Some studies, Henrik's study in 2011 showed that a much higher dose did confer some benefits on UV erythema, and that we're looking at also, and I always recommend this to people, not only do you need your supplements, you need to increase the dietary, and green tea is the thing to drink instead of caffeine. Oh, it's lovely. But, you know, we have different supplements that actually are targeted for different skin conditions.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
When people are looking for if they're dealing with an inflammatory type reaction, then of course we're looking at a fish oil. So we have Skin Omegas Plus, which has a splash of vitamin A in it to make it that extra special kind of skin product.
So I was going to say, Lorraine, I mean, what should our therapists be telling their clients then when it comes to diet, nutrition, supplementation?
Well, probably the most important thing is to think about what you're eating and just be aware. I think if people had more awareness before they put something in their mouth, and in fact, I think if people paid as much attention to what they eat as to what they wear, they would choose completely different.
That's a very good point. So thank you very much indeed to the three of you. We do hope you'll join us for our next edition with more thought-provoking information to help both skincare professionals and their clients. I'm Anna Richardson for iiaa Live.